Luka Doncic was already amazing, but this is just ridiculous. So far early on into the season, Luka has been playing at a ridiculously high level, and he's been a very clear early MVP favorite. And if Luka could continue to play at the level he has been throughout the rest of the season, or even stay relatively near this level, imagine how far the Dallas Mavericks can go during the regular season and the playoffs. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports, I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Luka Doncic has been a problem ever since he got to the NBA, and it was pretty clear very early on that this guy was going to be a superstar type talent for the Dallas Mavericks. The way that he was able to score for himself so effortlessly and do so at a pretty efficient rate, alongside with the fact that he's also a phenomenal passer and just very versatile player overall, just made him to be such a dynamic talent very early on into his career. But the question was, after his very successful rookie season, was how would he improve as the years did progress, because he was already at an extremely high level. And something that we sometimes see with very high level players that have great rookie years is they don't necessarily improve that much, and eventually after 2, 3, 4 seasons they start to plateau and the opposing defenses start to figure them out somewhat, and they get a little bit worse as time progresses. But it was pretty clear with Luka that was not the case for him, as he continuously improved his game season after season, even in his second year improving his numbers significantly. And after Luka already played 4 seasons, going into this year, people knew what to expect from him. Just an absolute superstar type talent, and certainly a top player in the league. But what Luka has been able to do thus far through 8 games for the Dallas Mavericks has been absolutely incredible, and something that nobody expected Luka to do, or really any player ever to do. He's playing at a historically high level, averaging 36 points per game at an incredible 52% shooting from the field, 8.8 rebounds on 8.6 assists. And he's put up 30 plus points in every single game that he's played so far, and basically every single game that he's played, he's put up very efficient shooting numbers as well. And the closest thing I can compare the start to the season to is what Wilt Chamberlain was able to do back in the day, which kind of just shows you how incredibly dominant Luka has been thus far. Now, after this incredible start, there have been a couple of questions that have arisen about Luka and the Mavs. And the first question is, could Luka continue to play like this throughout the entire regular season? Now, the sensible answer is no. Luka will not be putting up 30 plus points in every single game throughout the regular season. But could he play at this level throughout the regular season? So even if he's putting up 20 points in certain games, or even if he has certain bad games, could he overall play at this level throughout the regular season? I definitely think he could, although it would be extremely hard to do. This would be head and shoulders above any other season that Luka has had thus far. And other seasons that Luka has played obviously have been amazing. He's certainly been one of the best players in the NBA playing at that level. So if he's able to play at this level throughout an entire season, that would put him in an historic category. Now, I think if anybody in the NBA was able to do this, it probably would be Luka. He's super talented, he's super consistent, and he's super versatile on the offensive side. So I definitely think it's entirely possible, although it might not necessarily be the most likely case scenario. Now, the next question that some people have about Luka and the Mavs after this historic start for Luka has been playing at such a high level, but when you look at the Mavs record overall, they only have a 5-3 record, which of course isn't bad, but at the same time, when you consider how good Luka has played in literally every single game thus far this season, and the Mavs are only 5-3, imagine if Luka takes somewhat of a step back, or maybe even a stretch where he doesn't play well whatsoever. Where would the Mavs go from there? And in my opinion, I definitely think this is a very valid question, but at the same time, you needed to consider that it's still very early on into the season, and certain players on the Mavs are still adjusting to the new season and adjusting to some of their new teammates, so it is somewhat normal for the Mavs, or really any team that is expected to do great things, to get off to somewhat of a slow start, even if a specific player plays at an historically high level like Luka has been. So for that question, I'm at least personally not all that concerned about that, although it is something to put in the back of your mind. But now, what are my expectations for Luka Doncic alongside with the Dallas Mavericks as a whole this season? So starting with Luka Doncic, I definitely have very high expectations for him, like I do every season. I certainly would expect him to play at a very, very high level, even a little bit better than he did last year, and certainly be firmly in that MVP race as maybe even a favorite, as he always is. Now, if he doesn't win the MVP award, it's fine. He just needs to be playing at that level and be close to it at the very least. But in terms of the play that he's at right now, as I touched upon a little bit before, it's not necessarily something that I'm expecting. I definitely could see him playing at this level of play at least somewhat throughout the regular season, for the entire regular season and in the playoffs, but it wouldn't necessarily be something that I'm expecting. But moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, I also have decently high expectations for them as well, because they've been a team like a bunch of other teams in the Western Conference that have been a really good team during the regular season, but once it comes down to the playoffs, they've certainly struggled. So this season, although it would be very, very difficult, as a Western Conference has certainly gotten much better, I would like to see the Mavs get past the second round at the very least, and maybe even make it to the NBA Finals, depending on how well Luka and the rest of the team plays. I think their roster has a decent amount of talent, but whenever you have a player the level of Luka Doncic, you're always going to be a championship contender season after season. So I would like to see the Mavs cash in on that and actually make it to the finals, or at the bare minimum, make it to the Western Conference Finals. And at this point, anything less than that, I certainly would consider a disappointment, considering how many times they've made it to the playoffs and come up a little bit short. Now, one thing that I would say is I would like to see the Mavs bring in some players via trade during the trade deadline, or maybe bring in some players via the buyout market after the trade deadline. And specifically, I would like to see the Mavs add some more defense here and there, and also I would like to see them add three-point shooting. They don't really need individual scorers, as Luka does most of the ball handling, and even off the bench, they have a bunch of other guys that can do that, but I just think they would benefit from more catch-and-shoot three-point shooters. Players that you can have that solely focus on that, and some other guys that could also defend. Maybe you get both of those traits in one player, like a Jay Crowder, for example. But when you look at the roster overall, I definitely do like what they have. I like Christian Wood. I think he's a very talented big, and would and has played pretty nicely thus far with Luka Doncic in the pick and roll / pick and pop offense. I also like Spencer Dinwiddie. I think he's a very good individual scorer, also having the ability to play alongside Luka due to the fact that he can shoot that three ball decently effectively. He can also create for others when he's coming off the bench or playing with the bench unit at the very least. Tim Hardaway Jr. has certainly been a pretty nice catch and shoot three-point shooter, alongside with having a nice ability to score for himself. There's some other players on this roster that I do like, and I do overall like this roster, but I would like to see them add a couple little things here and there. Nothing major though. And if they're able to do that in the trade market or through the buyout market, I would be very excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Luka will be able to keep up this ridiculous level of play throughout the regular season and the playoffs, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.